Hello, dears, and welcome back to podcast number 5, I think, in which we're going to talk about the listening test. Now, the IELTS listening test is the first one that you're going to take and tests your ability to understand spoken English in different situations. The test lasts about 30 minutes and has 4 sections. In each section, you're going to listen to a recording and answer 10 questions. There are going to be 10 questions for each section, so 40 questions in total. Before each section, you hear information about who is speaking, the situation, and the topic. And the voice on the recording then tells you which questions to look at, and you read the instructions for the task on the question paper. Very easy so far. The recordings in each section are divided into parts, and there is generally a pause between each part so that you can read the questions before you listen. After the pause, you hear a continuation of the same recording, and you should use the pause to read the task so that you're ready to answer the questions. So, not you should use the pause. You must use the pause to read the task. Yeah. Don't spend those 20 to 30 seconds to pick your nose or contemplate about your life or look at your groin. It's very important for you to read the task and the question so you know exactly what you have to do. So you hear a section of the recording once only. Now here's the trick. And IELTS is also from Cambridge, but also CAE, FCE, and CPE are also from Cambridge, and you hear the recording twice. Well, yeah, it's the same kid, and it's a different kid from the same mother. So here you're going to listen the recording once only, and it's extremely important that you answer the questions as you listen and write your answers directly onto the question paper. Directly onto the question paper, not on the answer sheet. Don't go rogue. Don't be hero, because at the end of the test, you have 10 minutes to copy your answers from your question paper to the separate answer sheet. And trust me, I can tell you from experience, even if you write in capital letters, it will take you around 6 to maximum 7 minutes to transfer all your answers. Okay. So use the 30 minutes of listening to actually write the answers, not to transfer them on the separate answer sheet, because you're going to miss a lot of important information. Now let's talk about each part or each section. Section 1. In this part of the test, you are going to hear a conversation between two people, and the conversation is usually work or social situation, is generally about living, studying, or working in an English speaking country. For example, you may hear a conversation between an employer and an employee, or one between a student and a college administrator, or two friends talking about how to spend their free time. The conversation has a purpose, such as giving instructions, asking for information, making a booking, or making plans. And most of the questions test your ability to understand the detailed information that is exchanged between the speakers and then the conclusions they reach. You often have to complete the missing information in a form, a table, or a set of notes. Sometimes you may have to choose the correct answer from a list of alternatives A, B, C, or D. Yeah. And again, in all sections, you might hear a variety of accents: British, Irish, Scottish, Australian, American, all sorts. So, this is why in my previous podcast, I told you to listen to a lot of authentic sources of English: podcast, music, TV shows, so on and so forth, to attune your ear. Moving on to the second section. In this part of the test, you will hear one speaker giving a talk to a group of people. The talk is generally about living, studying, or working in an English speaking country. For example, an employer talking to a group of employees, or someone making an announcement. Again, the talk or announcement has a name, such as giving instructions, and most of the questions, therefore, test your ability to understand detailed information. The questions in this section usually ask you to choose the correct answer from a list of alternatives, A, B, C, D, whatnot. And you may have to answer multiple choice questions, for example, or match the information you hear to one answer in a longer list of options. Sometimes the questions in section 2 are based on visual material you may have. For example, have to choose the correct labels to go to a map. Or sometimes you may have to complete missing information in a set of sentences. We're moving on to section 3. Of course, everything is going to get more difficult as you progress, right? It's the same. This is the way it is in IELTS. Speaking is going to get more difficult as you progress, reading, writing, and so is listening. In the third section of the test, you will hear a conversation between 2 or 3 people, but this time in an academic setting. The conversation is generally about an academic topic, and the 2 main speakers are exchanging both information and ideas. For example, you may hear the conversation which involves 2 people who are working together on a research project, or a meeting between a tutor and 2 students reporting on their progress. The speakers may agree or disagree on certain points before coming to a conclusion. And again, most of the questions test your ability to follow the ideas being discussed, to identify each speaker's point of view, and to understand the outcome of their discussions. You need to listen to what the speakers say about each issue to be sure of the answer. The questions usually ask you to choose the correct answer from a list of options, just like in the previous sections, A, B, C, D, whatnot. You may have to answer multiple choice questions or match the information you hear to one answer in a longer list of options. Here, you may also have questions which are based on visual material, or you have to choose the correct labels to go on a diagram or maybe a flowchart. Section 4 is the last one, and here you'll hear one speaker giving a lecture or presentation. The talk is about an academic topic, and the speaker is discussing the topic in depth and at length. It usually takes around 5 to 6 minutes. And to listen to someone talking for 5 to 6 minutes, like you're doing right now, yeah, and maybe you're not interested in what they're talking, it can be quite demanding and daunting and exhausting and boring. I mean, you could hear about some research that the speaker has been involved in, or maybe the speaker may be discussing different people's ideas and opinions on a subject. I remember um, a student of mine told me that section 4 of the IELTS listening test was about the history of maps or something, cartography, and he was so bored he almost fell asleep. Well, yeah, tough luck. It is what it is. But again, the lecture or the presentation has a purpose, such as updating the audience on developments in a field of research, or providing students with an overview of an area of study. And most of the questions test your ability to understand and make a note of the detailed information the speaker presents, as well as following the arguments. Um, in this section, most of the questions ask you to write a word or short phrase to show that you've understood the information and arguments that you hear. You often have to complete the missing information in a set of sentences or notes that summarize the main ideas discussed in the talk. And again, sometimes you might have to choose the correct answer from a list of alternatives A, B, or C. So that's about the test. And now let's let me give you a little bit of info about the way this test is marked. And then I'm going to give you some strategies. Each number question in the listening test is worth 1 mark. If you write the correct answer, then you get the mark. No marks are taking off if you give the wrong answer. So it's always a very good idea to write an answer if you're not sure whether it's correct or not. However, if you misspell the word Even if the word is correct, you're going to get zero. So spelling is extremely important in listening. Also, it's extremely important for you to listen to the instructions, to the lady or the man talking over there. The instructions might tell you and will tell you how many words you can write. So read them and listen. If the instructions say write one word for each answer, then you must only write one word. If you write two words, you don't get the mark, even if the information is correct. As I said, spelling must be correct. Most of the words you have to write are familiar words that most students know to spell. You need to know that both UK and US spellings are accepted as correct, so no need to worry. You won't have any technical words or words that have difficult spellings. And sometimes, if you have difficult spellings like names of people and places, they're spelled out for you to understand on the recording. And again, this tests your knowledge of the alphabet. So this is another thing for you to know. Do you know your ABC? So Google the ABCD, yeah, or search on YouTube to practice your alphabet. Writing clearly is also very important. If your handwriting is unclear or if individual letters are not clearly written, you won't get the mark. Think about the fact that the examiners have to mark quite a lot, right? So uh, they're not going to like spend time like, oh, John, would you please come here? I cannot make sense of what this says. No, 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 no. They are not going to think about it. They're going to cross it out. You're going to get zero. So also remember that the words you need to write are the words you hear on the recording. So don't try to use your own words. Let me give you an example. If the word you hear on the recording is incredible and you write unbelievable as your answer because incredible, unbelievable synonyms, you won't get the mark. This is why it's important to write the words as you listen. If you try to remember afterwards, you may have understood what you heard, but not remember the actual words the speaker used. Yeah. Another thing that's very important, another frequently asked question, uppercase or lowercase. You can write your answers in either uppercase or lowercase. Both are marked correct, and you don't need to worry about punctuation. I mean, um, if the answer to the question is online and you write on dash line, you still get the mark. Um, in questions where the answer is a letter, you only write the correct letter next to the number of the answer on the answer sheet. That's simple. So the instructions are very, very straightforward, and it's very important for you to follow through. Okay, let me give you some strategies. What you should be doing before the test. So we have strategies before the test, during the test, and at the end of the test, because that's also important. Before the test, it's important for you to familiarize yourself with the format of the listening tests, to know exactly what you have to do in each part, and then you can say that you're confident and prepared on the day of the test. For example, you could listen to whole tests to know what you have to do in each part. Um, what information is given on the recording and what information is given on the question paper. Then the information you hear about the speaker, the situation and the topic can help you to be ready to understand what you hear. This is called predicting. Remember that I told you in the previous podcast? This is predicting. So predicting the type of vocabulary and information that you're going to hear will help you quite a lot. Practice using the time during the pauses between the sections and parts to read a task on the question paper. If you're going to take the paper based, you can underline, you can use your highlighters to underline keywords, so on and so forth. Remember, only the separate answer sheet will be taken into account. Um, Practice predicting type of words and information that is missing in tasks when you have to write the answer. Again, predicting, trying to um, make assumptions about what you're going to hear. Remember that reading the task also helps you to know about the type of information you're going to hear and the order the information is going to come in. Try to make the most of every opportunity to practice your listening. For example, listen to podcast, to broadcast in English as often as you can. I mean, we have the internet, which is an invaluable resource, is a gold mine. Use the internet to keep up with the latest news, current affairs in English. And while you're listening, think about the type of language the speakers use to make their points. Strategies during the test. There's a voice on the recording, either a man or a woman, who gives you all the instructions during the test and guides you through the 4 parts. Remember that you hear each recording once only. And remember, don't start coughing, sneezing, passing gas, or I don't know what. It's extremely important for you to um, control your bowel movements or whatnot, because you're going to hear everything once only. And not to mention that the other people around you, the other candidates, are going to give you the stink eye. Remember that the questions follow the order of information and the recording, which is extremely important. Yeah, so they have a chronological order. Also, remember that you hear words and information from the question paper as you listen to the recording, and these will help you to keep your place. Also, there are pauses between each part and halfway through each part, so you can read the tasks and get ready to answer. And always write an answer while you're listening, even if you're not sure whether it's right or not. Don't worry about the spelling while you're listening. I mean, you have time to check that later, but again, write clearly so that you can read your own answers later. Don't stop to think if you're not sure of an answer. You need to be ready to answer the next one. And most importantly, don't panic. You have plenty of time at the end of the test to transfer the answers. Now, what you should be doing at the end of the test, when the recording has finished, you have 10 minutes to copy your answers onto the separate answer sheet. You have time to check your answers, especially the spelling of the words you wrote while you were listening. Try not to change your answers at this stage. What you wrote while you were listening is probably correct. And remember, you have to write one answer. If you're not sure, don't just put 2 answers. If you do that, you won't get the mark. Make sure that you put your answers next to the correct number on the answer sheet and keep checking that you haven't made a mistake in the numbering. If you don't know the right answer to a question, always write something. You may have understood more than you think. I mean, you never know. So write something. Don't leave an empty space. Only write in the column to the right of the numbers. Don't write anything in the column marked X. You're going to see it on your answer sheet. And if you finish before the 10 minutes is up, again, double check that your answers are in the correct boxes. Because at the end of the test, the question paper and the answer sheet are both collected in, but only the answers on the answer sheet count. The question paper is going to be destroyed. Okay, and that would be all about the listening test. In the following podcast, I'm going to give you more tips about each type of task that you might find in the listening test, and also the sub skills you have to practice so you can score well in the listening test. This podcast was a little bit longer, but trust me, it will help you a great deal. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves, drink plenty of water, take plenty of sleep, and remember, keep learning, keep exploring. Bye bye.